It was just terrible.
It wasn't long ago you'd find thick crude floating in the Gulf of Mexico. This was the end of May, about 12 miles off the Louisiana coast.
It certainly does look like it's fresh out of the pipe.
But according to the federal government, images like these no longer exist in the Gulf waters.
There is a negligible amount of oil still at the surface.
Overall, a new federal report paints a rosy picture of the oil spill cleanup, a far cry from the days of thick oil covering huge parts of the Gulf. The report says that only 26% of the oil still exists in the form of light sheen and tar balls or microscopic droplets in the water. But how can most of the estimated 5 million barrels of oil already be out of the water? According to that federal report, about a third of the oil was either skimmed up, burned, or blasted with chemical dispersants. Another huge chunk, about 40% they say, evaporated or dissolved naturally. But how does that happen?
This is a sample of light sweet crude.
That's the kind of oil that was gushing into the Gulf, very different from the oil in Alaska's Exxon Valdez disaster. Dr. Richard Snyder from the University of West Florida showed us how sweet crude oil changes once it escapes the well.
This represents the weathering process. This has a lot of very light material in it, and if you open this up, it would knock you out. It's just like opening a can of paint thinner. It's just very, very thin, a lot of volatile materials. When this hits the surface, a lot of this material will start evaporating right away, and it will get heavier, and as that lighter material evaporates, we'll get this heavy, gooey, tar-like material.
At this point, scientists say microbes in the warm Gulf waters start eating the oil. What's left over turns into tar balls. Many wash up on the shorelines and get picked up by cleanup crews. But the federal government's findings has its skeptics. Many worry about what we can't see.
We know that dispersants break up in small droplets, that they sink in the water. Gee, what does that mean? And what does being invisible mean? Because it's invisible, it can't be overlooked and under-evaluated.
The federal report also says there are vast amounts of microscopic oil droplets lingering some 3,000 to 4,000 feet underwater. And we've seen oil trapped in this Gulf algae that's a natural nursery for marine life.
Each one of these little patches of floating weed here, which are very important habitats for a variety of animals, crabs, small fish. So all this habitat then has been fouled with these bits of oil.
There's a lot of unknowns with this, and we just don't know what the long-term implications are going to be. It's all going to depend on the exposure level.
The oil well is finally dead, but the debate over the oil spill's environmental impact is just now coming alive. Ed Lavendera, CNN, New Orleans.